Well, good morning. How are you all today? Are you ready for the world to end, for the earth to be slammed with a CME and shut everything down? Are you? Well, most people aren't. I think some of you may be. I know some of you are. I'll put it that way because I know some of you. But that's what I want to talk about today because we are expecting the full impact of a CME today. Did you all see the auroras last night? Seeing clear, we saw it here. It was amazing. I didn't see it. Kelly and the kids went out and took pictures. I didn't care. They showed me the pictures, so that's all I needed to see. But apparently, it was seen clear down in through Central Texas. Triple G said he saw him down there, and clear down into Florida. But we're waiting for the full impact today. So grab yourself something to sip on. I'm drinking today out of our 2025 Mary Stonemont Christmas mug. Whatever you have, hopefully out of a Stonemont mug, because as we prepare for the end of the world, everything tastes better out of a Stonemont mug, right? Let me take a sip and we will get going. Did I do that loud enough to irritate the person who hates me to hear me do it? Okay, so CME, the existential threat to the planet. Okay, a lot of preparedness channels will probably come on and talk about this today or whenever. That's good because it raises awareness. Most of them mean well, but most of them really don't have a grasp on what they're talking about. And why should you listen to me if nobody knows what they're talking about? Well, because some people actually do know what they're talking about, and I wrote 7 books about it. If you're new to us, now all of you who have been with me for a long time, you know, many of you have read this whole series, but if you're new to the channel, welcome. It's great to have you. We cover things here in a serious manner. We don't try to scare you, not a bunch of doom and gloom, but we do approach the realities of situations, and a coronal mass ejection is a reality. It is the existential threat of our planet. Okay, so I wrote the Stonemont series. That's what this is about, an earth-killing CME. I'll tell you a little bit more about them, but in here is the planning, the survival, and the rebuilding after it. You know, after 90% of the people will be dead. Well, that's pretty much accepted. I want to read you a couple of things in preparation for my talk on this. One is an article that came out. What was it in? It was in Discern Report. Okay, and then I'm going to read you just a short excerpt out of my second book, The Revival, and it tells a little bit about CMEs. So the title of this is G4 Geomagnetic Storm Watch is in effect. Okay, now here's an editor's note. I want to start with this. He says the original title of this story from Michael Snyder is Brace for Impact. Okay, on 11/11, that was yesterday, the sun unleashed an absolutely massive solar storm that will hit the Earth on 11/12 today. On one hand, I totally respect the power of the sun to cause massive problems for our planet. Yes, it can. On the other hand, we've heard about the next Carrington event. I'll get into that many times in recent years, and we're still here. Okay? It's definitely worth covering. But considering there's not much we can do to prepare for it, I'll take great issue with that. That's the problem. Too many people say there's nothing we can do to prepare for it. Well, there's nothing we can do to stop it. But prepare for it is a different thing. Okay. So he says, considering there's not much we can do to prepare for it, I opted for the toned-down headline and upfront caveat note, which is G4 Geomagnetic Storm Watch is in effect. So with that said, here's Michael's story, and I'm just going to read you the first paragraph. Okay. A G4 Geomagnetic Storm Watch has been issued, and we are being told that the Earth is going to be hit. But at this hour, we do not know how bad it will be or how much damage will be done. We are being told that scientists won't know the intensity of the solar storm that is headed our way until it is 1 million miles from our planet. If the storm is much more powerful than expected, we will have less than an hour to prepare. See, that's the next thing. You don't have less than an hour to prepare. You have had years to prepare. My first book came out in 2017. I started talking about how to prepare for a CME. So this is not one of those things, oh, kids, grab the bags, load the station wagon, grab your go bag, let's run out into the woods. That's not preparing, okay? So when they say that we have less than an hour to prepare, well, that shows the ignorance on the part of many who are not into preparedness, right? In such a short period of time, there would be little that we could do to protect our power grids. That's true. That's true. That's true. So hopefully this solar storm will turn out to be relatively minor because we are completely, and this part is true, completely and utterly unprepared for another Carrington event. Right. Well, when he says that, we are completely unprepared. That means we as a country, as a the government has their continuity of government plan in place, but only for a select few. So no, as a country, we are unprepared. As a grid system, we are unprepared. But as individual preparedness-minded people, we should be completely prepared. Okay, let me read just a short paragraph from the preface of my second book, The Revival. Okay, if a Carrington-class CME struck Earth today, Carrington-class CME, what that refers to, for those of you who may not know, in 1859, a CME hit the Earth, and it was observed by British amateur astronomer Richard Carrington. And so he was the first one to kind of put this in the books, and so it was named after him. They say that we are going to get one of these about every 150 years. The scientists who go back, those who know how to do this, they go back, and when I don't know whether it's tree rings or whatever, they say that the Earth is hit with a Carrington-class event about every 150 years. Well, that happened in 1859. We're a little overdue on that, okay? So if a Carrington-class CME struck Earth today, it would destroy all electrical grids and electronic components worldwide. Now, there's some disputes on that in the scientific community, but since we haven't experienced one, it is, it's hypothetical. We would immediately be back in a world without electricity. Now, I want to stress this. Some people say, we'll be back in the Stone Age. No, we wouldn't. We'd be back in the 1840s. Think about when did we start using electricity? 1840s. People lived good lives in the 1840s. People lived good lives in the 1740s. Now, many did not. Many lived horrible lives, just like many live horrible lives now, but the difference is between those who are prepared and those who are not. Okay. A nuclear-induced electromagnetic pulse, or an EMP, would have the same effect on a target area. In each case, the EMP Commission estimates that 90% of those in affected areas would be dead within 1 year from starvation, disease, accidents, and the violence that accompanies societal collapse. Right. How probable is this? In their 2012 report, the American Geophysical Union projected a 12% chance that a Carrington-class CME would strike the Earth within the next decade. Okay, now, so that was 2012. That was 13 years ago. So it hasn't. So and the statisticians can tell me whether they think that means that each passing decade will increase our chances or not. But we have, at least, they say, a 1 in 8 chance of being hit with an Earth-killing CME. Is this one going to be it? I don't know. So why are we talking about it? Because if this isn't it, you need to start preparing for it right now. If you haven't had this on your dance card, okay, too many people are absorbed, just totally bonkers about the things that are going on in the world, the economy, the this and that, and politics, and Charlie Kirk, and Epstein, and Venezuela, and all these different things, which certainly are situations to keep track of, but don't be overly nutsud about it. I just made that term up, nutsud, because I couldn't think of what to say. But don't let that consume you. I have always said, prepare for a CME. Because if you're prepared for that, you are prepared for everything else. Now, I want you to think about this for just a second, okay? We're going along here. Maybe right in the middle of this, maybe you're enjoying watching this video right now, and all of a sudden everything shuts off. That's it. Are you prepared for that? Lights go off. Even integrative preparedness video goes off. Oh no. Are you ready? And you start talking, or you go hit the switches, nothing coming on, and you go to your breaker box and start flipping breakers, nothing's coming on. You go try to dial in your radio. You go on your smartphone or your dumb phone. You try to get some news. You see nothing but static if the thing comes on at all. You go out and start your car, and it may or may not start. Back when I wrote the first book, The Reversion, there was the idea that vehicles wouldn't start. But there's a different idea about that now. Some think that most vehicles would continue to run. Some would not start. Some that were running would shut off, but they'd be able to put back on. But we don't know. Up till now, it's theoretical. Okay, it's theoretically hypothetical. But the thing is, even if your car does run, the fuel pumps aren't working at the gas station, so you have whatever gas you have. Are you going to stay where you are, or do you have a place to go? What are you going to do? Are you prepared for it? Are you prepared to stay where you are? Are you bugging in, right? Do you have all the food that you need for a couple of years until you're starting to produce? Or maybe you live in a situation where you're already producing all the food you need, in which case you're in very good shape. Maybe. Okay, I'll get back to that in a second. The story that I wrote about in the Stonemont series was the story of a prepared family who, as a result of their preparedness, was not only able to continue living well, a high-quality life, after the collapse of everything, but was also able, as a result of their preparedness, to help other people, bring other people in, start rebuilding over the series of 7 novels, start rebuilding community the way that community and society ought to be rebuilt. Now, many people will say, well, nobody can be that prepared. And this is the lower rung of preppers who are preparing to an extent. They're not really preparing. They're preparing short term. Many of them just complaining. They're not really preparing more than a couple of 3 months. There will be those, and you might hear channels come on and say, well, if a CME hits, you'd better have enough to last you for 3 months, okay? 3 months, you got enough food to last you for 3 months? Well, let me tell you this. If a CME hits, the grid's down for years. It's down for years. And that's because of the grids that we have. We have 3 major grids in the United States: East, West, and Texas. Okay. And then we have major transformers, which there are about 2,000 across the country, major transformers, that if they're taken out, even now it takes up to a year to replace one. And they're not made here in the United States anymore. They're made, they were made in Germany for a while, South Korea, some say Brazil, I don't know. They're made other places. Even if one goes out now, they don't keep a bunch of spares laying around. It would take a year to replace one now. If everything goes down, you're not getting any new transformers anywhere. Everything's down. They say that within 12 months, 90% of the people would be dead. That doesn't mean that everybody lives for 12 months and then 90% die. What that means is that people start dying immediately. The first people who die are those who are reliant on electronics or electricity for their life sustain. Okay, those who are in ERs, those who are at home relying on electricity to keep them going. Those in hospitals. Then those who are reliant on life-sustaining drugs because they're not being delivered anymore. And then you start to get people after several days of dark, no police, no fire, no emergency medical, whatever, people's going to start going nuts. They're going to start wiping out the grocery stores, the 7-Elevens, every place else, all the gas stations, every place with a candy machine. Okay, they're going to wipe them out. I doubt there would be any food left anywhere within a week. because most people don't have more than a couple of days of food in their house. Excuse me, I'll take a sip, because I do have plenty of coffee. Well, I got a couple of years of coffee. I'd probably run out, but eventually. But people start dying, and violence erupts, and people start going crazy, and people who are on meds aren't taking their meds, and it would be impossible to describe, I think, how horrendous it would be. And so people start dying immediately, like I say, from accidents, from bad food, from bad water, from disease, medical situations, and violence. And so it's just going to be a hellscape until finally 90% are gone, and now you got 10% left. Are you going to be in the 10%? That's the question. Are you going to be in the 10%? Now, in that 10%, how many are good and how many are bad? Well, I talk about that a lot in my novels, and that's why you have to have a good, strong circle of friends. Okay. If everything fell apart right now, do you have a support system? Do you have a support system of people that? And I don't mean people who train all the time out in the woods as a bunch of citizen soldiers. I mean, do you have people of the quality of people who will come together and work together and hang together to survive, to protect yourselves against whoever? So back to the people who will tell you you need 3 months of food. What happens after 3 months? There's no more food. So it takes people about anywhere from a month to, the Irish hunger strikers, some of them lasted close to 60 days, but they weren't doing anything. They weren't working, and your body starts eating itself after, not too long. Well, if you have 3 months of food, that just means you're going to starve to death in 4 months. So, no, 3 months of food is not what you want. 2 months is worse. 1 month is worse. Okay, what do you want? Here's my first piece of advice along that area. I tell people they need years of food. Now, when I say people, and I always say 7 years of food, stored food. Well, who can do that and why? Well, maybe you can, maybe you can't, but that ought to be a goal. Your goal should be to have where you are as much food as you can. Your stored food is there to provide you with food until you can start producing your own food. That means farming, hunting, whatever like that. I'll say something about this too. You'll hear, there's so much in the preparedness world that it just isn't true. You'll hear some people will say, well, people are going to go out in the woods and they're going to hunt. But we know that back during the Depression, all the deer were killed off for people going out there and hunting. Well, that's not true at all. Somebody made that up, and it was repeated so many times everybody believes it. There was a great disease in the American deer population before the Depression. Most of the deer were already dead. Okay, so it wasn't a bunch of people going out and killing off the deer. I know that's repeated by so many preppers and so many prepper channels. But it's not true. But you need to be able to produce your own food. Okay. You need to be able to defend yourself. You need to have a group that is not just there as a defense group, but as a support group. Okay. A spiritual, moral, and emotional support group. And I don't mean like, oh, I have an emotional support animal. No. People, for the most part, need people. These people that think they're going to go off and live in the woods forever and a day. Well, maybe some can, but to be honest, they're not normal. Okay. So think about it. Are you ready? If it hits today, are you ready for it? Now, I want to throw something else in, too. People will tell you to get out of the built-up areas. Well, yeah, in some cases. I get into that, too. I show the groups that will continue to survive in cities. Okay? I show you the groups that will survive in suburbs. I talk about groups that will survive in small towns and rural areas. I suggest, and I say the best place to live is in the exurbs, right on the very fringe of the suburbs. Okay, suburban people, regardless of what people are going to say, and you'll hear people say, everybody will go crazy. Everybody, you think your neighbor won't turn against you? They will come and kill you and eat you. No, I know it's a popular, that's a popular myth. And in some cases, in some great calamities in the world, we have seen people revert to cannibalism. But in the West, we pretty much have a core communal aversion to cannibalism. I know the Donner Party and this and that and Alive. I know all that. Don't. There's no need to come on and say, but such and such back in 18 whatever, somebody ate somebody else to sale. I know. And today some people do it just because they're crazy. Because Jeffrey Dahmer. But for the most part, most people aren't going to do that. I'll tell you what most people will do. They'll starve to death first. They will starve to death first. I know the Bible says that the Jews, they ate their babies. I know all this. But I'm talking about today. Okay. So, I would suggest living in the exurbs. That's where you're going to have. First, the reason that I say that now many people are out there on small towns. Small towns are probably great places to be. Rurally, you got a toss up there. You've got a lot of great things about it. You also have isolation, which is going to work against you. When the bad people do get together and they come together as groups and they're going to go out there and try to take stuff from people, they're not coming into a cul-de-sac where there's a whole bunch of men who have a lot of life experience and guns and try to do that. They're going to go out to a farm somewhere. Okay? They're going to go out to a farm. A little farmhouse there with Mr. and Mrs. Farmer and their kids, or no kids, or whatever. They're going to go out there. Why? Because there's cows and there's stuff out there. We're going to go take all their stuff. And they probably have guns too. You're not going to be able to stand up against a group of 10, 12, 20 marauders. Okay? And I also don't believe, here's something else you're going to hear about the golden hordes. This was started a long time ago, about the so-called golden hordes. They're going to spill out of the city, and they're going to rampage, and they're going to rape and pillage, and they're going to eat the fat of the land and kill everyone. No, that's not going to happen. That's not going. How do I know that? Because I know the people in the city. Don't worry about that. Do not worry about that. I know somebody will be, they're typing right now, well, so-and-so in his book said that. So-and-so in his book evidently doesn't know city people. Those who don't kill each other will most likely starve to death before they'll ever try to go someplace else to get food. Okay, all right. So what's going to happen today? This is, like I say, the existential threat. This is the biggest threat against our world, and it's the most horrendous threat because of the way so many people would die and suffer during their dying. So, you prepare. I mean, I talk about this all the time. Food, water, shelter, defense, people. That's it. Right? Okay. If you want the total plan, in a great story, I might say, even though I say that myself, even though I wrote them, but I have people tell me, I've just had a couple people lately tell me it's the best book series they've ever read, not just in preparedness or survival, but any books. How about that? I thank you all for saying that so I could tell the good people here about this and recommend these. These are my books, the Stone Mount series. The funny thing is, I'll throw this in here too because I want new people to know this. I have people every now and then who come on and crack on me and say, why are you always selling your books? Well, I wrote these books as a way to give people a guideline to preparing properly for the existential threat, the greatest threat that we face. And that's what we're talking about today. And that is a CME. That was the whole purpose of me writing the first book. And then people wanted more, and so I wrote more. Okay? And it's really, it's you'll love the story, but you'll learn more than you can imagine. And it's the Stonemont series, the reversion, the revival, the renewal, an appeal to heaven, the blessings of freedom, hostages to fortune, and on wings like eagles. And I'm working on number 8 right now. You can get them a couple different ways. First, through Amazon, and that link is down below. You can get them a better way, and that is directly from me through our website, stonemont.us. And if you do it that way, and I love you to do it that way, because then I sign each one for you, I write a note in each one to you, and I love the relationship that I feel that I have with you, my readers, when I do that. And then we get them out to you, and you can buy the whole set as a set, the whole series as a set through the website. You can't do that through Amazon. And then I also throw in the Stonemont Notebook, a place for you to write on your notes and questions and stuff like that. And people love that. So if you want the whole plan and you want a great story, that I suggest that be your next step. But start thinking about this. If it doesn't happen today, we are assured it's going to happen. And it's something that you need to take seriously. This is not one of those things that you just splash around on the surface and go, well, I'm going to get an extra can of beanie weenies, or I'm just going to complain. And it's also something that complaining doesn't solve. Okay? You need a plan, and you need to work the plan. And you need to understand that this kind of preparedness comes from a proper sense of responsibility, not fear. Because you're responsible for you and everybody who depends on you. And scientists say this is going to happen. Now, I hope it doesn't happen today because I have things to do today. And tomorrow. And I'm looking forward to Christmas. But if it does happen today, I'm ready. Are you? All right. You all have a good day. And as we always say, we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And if it doesn't turn off the world's lights tonight, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.